Hi, I'm Frank Coleman, and I wanted to tell you about my latest obsession. It's this series of books. These are just some of them. And I want to start by saying that, first of all, I get absolutely no type of consideration or value or gifts or any type of compensation or anything in that regard at all for this endorsement and what I'm about to say about these books. I pay retail for these books. This is purely an endorsement based on my enthusiasm for the topic at hand, which to you marketeers, that would be absolute gold and unvarnished, unencumbered from the heart endorsement. Boy, these books are amazing. They are called Shadows in a Phantom Eye. And there's a series of 8, and then there's another series of 8. And they are published on demand. You can get them from, that company, that big company that sells everything, but you can also get them from basically every other independent bookseller as well. They orbit around $25 a volume, and they start with 1872. This is Attractions and Aberrations in the Moving Image. And I will show you the covers, I think, first, and then I'll read you the intro, which explains everything much more succinctly than I could. So this is the cover of the first one. And this covers 1872 to 1907. This is the second one. It covers 1908 to 1913. Again, these are all print on demand, but the quality is excellent. And there's tons of photos, and they're very well reproduced. This is the third one, 1914 to 1916. As you can see, some of the photographs do include nudity. They don't pull any punches and a lot of stuff, and we'll talk about that more. This one is volume 4, 1917 to 1919. My goodness, this is now volume 5, 1920 to 21. It's an entire book covering 2 years of cinema. This is volume 6, 1922 to 1924. And this one is volume 7, 1925 to 1927. I don't have volume 8 yet, but I will soon. Nor do I have volume 9, but I do have volume 10, which covers the pre-code era, 1932 to 1933. As I said, I will be getting all of these, no doubt about it. And they go up to volume 15, looks like 1949. I can't, the print is a little small. I think it goes up to 1949. Covers film noir. Anyway, these books, this series of books, are the most important scholarly works on cinema since William K. Everson, and I say that as his son-in-law. We have all of Bill's books here, and of course, they are fantastic, and they are sort of like, the motherlode from the wellspring from which so much else came. But these are incredible, and if he were around, he would plots, to use a showbiz Yiddish term. He would plots over this stuff. This is also, it's also going to be controversial, and it wouldn't be as good as it is if it weren't controversial. So let me tell you first of all about the authors of this series. The authors of this series are the Nocturne Group. I am not a member of the Nocturne Group. I don't know any of the members of the Nocturne Group. And unless you're a member of the Nocturne Group, chances are you don't either. And you probably never will, because the Nocturne Group is an anonymous Cine Coven, hyphenated. They call themselves a Cinema Coven, a Cine Coven of 13 film historians, all dedicated to researching and documenting the history of the moving image and also to film restoration and preservation. They're also the proprietors of Black Gas Entertainment, a film blog. All right, so let's dig into what these books are actually all about. Shadows in a Phantom Eye, Attractions and Aberrations in the Moving Image. Each book contains a foreword that explains about the series and about the format of the series, and then about the entries. And then they talk about the illustrations and give credits. And then each volume has a brief paragraph describing what's in the volume. and then finally a description of the Nocturne Group itself. So it is worthwhile for me to read to you about this series, because it most succinctly encapsulates the extremely wide array of topics covered in this series. So here we go. Shadows in a Phantom Eye is a multi-volume publication investigating and documenting attractions and aberrations in the moving image from 1872 onwards. Attractions and aberrations are defined as filmed images and themes which exert a vicarious or even morbid fascination over the viewer. In early cinema, these included, and this following list is a snapshot overview. They actually encompass all of the following over the course of these books. Here we go. These included images of magic tricks, Satan and hell, human freaks and anomalies, accidental deaths or executions, explosions and natural disasters, human zoos and ethnic stereotyping, drug abuse and alcoholism, voyeurism and nudity, science fiction and horror, walking skeletons, ghosts and seances, war and atrocities, surgical operations, surgical operations, disease admonitories, xenomorphic organisms, hypnosis, absurdist decapitations and destruction of the human body, crime and murder, animal cruelty and hunting, plane wrecks, train wrecks and car wrecks, daredevil stunts and chases, time-lapse cinematography and microcinematography, phantom rides and other thrill-based visual phenomena. At the heart of these mediations was metamorphosis, the transmutation of matter or reality itself before the naked eye. Well, that's quite a lot to swallow. There's more. Shadows in a Phantom Eye includes information on thousands of films, many of them never before documented in the English language, including many from Japan and pre-revolutionary Russia, for example. Within the book's text, readers can trace histories of not only narrative cinema, but also documentary, newsreel, science and medical, animation, and many other worldwide forms and genres of moving image. Plus, histories of exhibition modes, film technologies, censorship, special effects, art direction, and many other peripheral issues and disciplines. The text also demonstrates how the history of film is directly intertwined with human history itself, and how early film was continually shaped by historical events such as war, scandal and crime, politics, art movements such as futurism and surrealism, prohibitions, and other social forces. In summary, Shadows in a Phantom Eye presents an unprecedented resource for all students of early cinema, with information on thousands of films from the silent era and beyond, and thousands of rare and often never before seen images. Each volume is arranged chronologically by year. Within each year, a selection of relevant films are alphabetically listed and discussed. Each listing may also reference a number of other films, some dating from beyond the parameters of the volume. Yeah, each listing may also include reference to like dozens of other films. Dozens and dozens of other films. Each listing. Incredible. Incredible. This format means that the book, a complete index of film titles is also provided. This format means that the book can be used as an encyclopedia with easily referenced entries. However, the authors recommend that each volume also be read cover to cover like a regular history book, since this is the only way that the ongoing history of attractions and aberrations in the moving image can be fully comprehended. Now, A large percentage, some say 90% of all silent films are lost. This is due to various factors, including the ephemeral nature of film stock itself, recycling, accidents, war, and simple neglect. Where films referenced in this book were not available to view, descriptions of them were constructed by cross-referencing a variety of surviving sources, including synopses, advertising materials, reviews, shooting scripts, censor records, posters, production and publicity photographs, news stories, memoirs, press releases, and all other relevant documentation. This book covers films from all countries of the world. All films are listed by their original titles, and translations into English by the book's authors are provided where necessary. So on and so forth. So this is Volume 1. Volume 1 begins in 1872, when British photographer Edward Muybridge was first challenged to produce a visual study of horses in motion. And it ends in 1907, a year when the cinematic arts were already considerably evolved, and Francis Pathé Frère led the world in the realm of exploitation film production. This volume references well over 1,000 films and contains over 250 photographs, images, and illustrations from the productions, etc. It is absolutely incredible. It starts with, as it says, 1872, Edward Muybridge, English-born photographer and investigator of animal locomotion, is asked by Leland Stanford, a railroad tycoon and future governor of California, to photograph a horse in motion. Over the next 6 years, he develops a system using 24 cameras with exposures as short as 1/6000th of a second. So it is absolutely astonishing and incredible. And also, I must say that it does, well, first of all, I want to encourage anybody who's interested in this, any film student of all ages, to buy the series, buy the entire series and get it in hard copy. Because this is exactly the sort of thing that needs to be preserved in hard copy and not rely upon the vagaries and transient nature of digital storage to preserve this. Okay, buy the books. So, and the hard copies of this should be scattered around the world in multiple instances to ensure that this history of the moving image persists and is in turn preserved. And you, as a software developer for the last 30 plus years, you cannot count on anything digital to preserve anything. So there you go. Now the other thing is that, as I was saying at the top, this book is controversial. These books are controversial, and no doubt about it, as magnificent and fascinating as there are, some pages I skip past faster than others. I really don't have a lot of capacity for surgical, operation photography and stuff like that. And as it indicated at the top, it encompasses a lot of very upsetting topics and imagery. I mean, that's the thing, is that images that have that kind of effect on people, that morbid fascination and all like that, are also that way because they are repellent at some level. Sometimes at multiple levels. Sometimes so repellent that so abhorrent that the viewer can't take it. And actually is driven to want to excise it. I'm sure there are images in this book. There's probably at least one image in each one of these books that somebody somewhere would want to rip out. There are some that it's not pornography, although there is nudity. There is the results of actual real life violence are depicted, and executions and so on and so forth. So there are actual historical images of actual lynchings and actual executions and stuff like that. So you have to know that going into it. But this is a book for grown-ups. This is a series for grown-ups, and we're trying to have a grown-up discussion here about what actually happened. And you can't have that if you're like, my tender eyes can't countenance that. And the other thing that is just like loud and clear from looking at these books is that the tendency to go for the most abhorrent, the most upsetting, the most lurid imagery, that impulse has been there right from the very beginning. As soon as there was moving imagery of any kind, you know, there was just no holds barred for so long. and you know, it's just interesting. It is a fantastic reference. It is also amazing, even with 90% of all silent films being lost, just how much has actually survived and is still popping up on YouTube. I have probably added 125, 150 titles to the silent movie section of my Plex library since getting this history of these books, and other ones that I just go, oh man, I can't believe that's lost. So much great stuff. So there's that. I highly recommend you get these. They, as I say, they orbit around $25 a pop. The other thing is, in looking at some of the early reviews on Amazon, they mentioned that some of the images had production problems and striping and stuff like that. Because it's print on demand, they have obviously fixed those problems, whatever they were. There's a large contingency of people in gorilla suits in some of these volumes, especially early on. But just incredible. For example, did you know that there was a version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame before Lon Chaney? It was made in France. I didn't. I have it now in my collection. Did you know that there was a version of The Bluebird made by Maurice Tourneur in 1911? Well before, you know, the version with Elizabeth Taylor and all like that? I didn't. I do now. I got it now. It's an expressionistic masterpiece. Just amazing stuff. There were also whole technologies. I think it's like in the 1914 era, people experimenting with, you know, basically the next iteration of Pepper's Ghost, which was developed in the 1800s, which is using mirrors and various devices in live performance to fool people. Here it is right here. Fool people into thinking that they were seeing essentially a hologram or a ghost on stage. Here it is right here. In the Volume 3, 1914 to 1916. Here's an entry. Crazy for Kinoplasticon. You ever heard of Kinoplasticon? 1914, Italy. Kinoplasticon was invented in Vienna around 1911 and closely modeled after Alabastra, a German kinospectral projection system developed by Oskar Mester, which used mirrors and glass to give viewers the impression of watching three-dimensional figures. Mester's first Alabastra film is thought to be Pierrot und Columbine from 1906. By 1910, he had opened a specially adapted cinema theater space to showcase his new technique. When Mester evolved Alabastra into a new format called Fantomo, Kinoplasticon was taken up in several European countries, including Russia and England, where Walter R. Booth directed several films in the format. Austrian Kinoplasticon films such as Misra the White Slave Girl, circa 1912, were produced by a new division of Wiener Kunstfilm, the company founded by Louis Fleck and Anton Holm, as demonstrated by Leonardo Films L'Entusiastica del Kinoplasticon, Crazy for Kinoplasticon. It's the name of this film. The films involved actors being clothed or painted white and shot against black backgrounds to enhance their later projection into a three-dimensional space. They also produced the Kinoplasticon film A Game of Chess. Alabastra, Kinoplasticon, and other related systems have their technological roots in the Ghost Phantasmagoria projections, devised in London in 1862 by Henry Dirks and John Pepper for supernatural stage illusions, the Pepper's Ghost technique, which was also reportedly used in later films such as The Bells with Boris Karloff in 1926, in which a spectral figure is projected. Kinoplasticon had all but disappeared by 1915, a year in which the first experiments with anaglyphic 3D took place in the USA. So this is an entire technology that's been and gone, and like nobody now knows about it. I certainly didn't know about it. These people, like the spiritual forefathers of those of us who were working with CD-ROMs in the early 90s and trying to create a new art form with early versions and aspects of interactivity and stuff like that. These people are our spiritual forefathers. And I've got a shelf full of lost films by any other name, projects on CD-ROM that are unplayable now. So there's that. And then down here, later on down the page, is a record of a film called The Escape by D.W. Griffith, 1914, which just sounds really grim. I am on page 15 of this book. And I've learned about kinoplasticon and some of the most lurid stuff you could possibly imagine. Anyway, so it's just chock full of stuff like that, and the photographs are all lovingly and hugely reproduced, and it's just my highest recommendation. And just a great thing to curl up with while you're trying to, escape from reality for a little while. Okay, there you go. That's my recommendation for today. Enjoy. Bye.